I was thinking of how to open up the next section, which is introducing our speaker, and my first thought was, how many of you woke up with Eric Scott this morning? Yep, thank you, Hillary, thank you, I know. But interestingly enough, it's a unique situation with Eric. When Bridgegate became the news in January, Eric was our luncheon speaker, as many of you know, and he had to cancel. And he was, totally concerned about what he would do by canceling. We said, don't worry about it, you've got more important things to do, but he guaranteed to be back here to talk to us, and we're thrilled that he is. Eric is Executive Director of News and Network Programming at Town Square Media and NJ 101.5, and serves as a national brand leader for all of Town Square's media news talk radio stations in the United States. Eric is a 3-time Edward R. Murrow Award-winning broadcast journalist and one of the foremost political experts in New Jersey. And if you haven't heard his Ask the Governor show, everyone goes there to listen to what's going on. And he is a very hard-hitting, open individual with our governor, as he has been with all the past governors. Previously, Eric worked at the United Nations correspondent for the NBC Mutual Network Radio and as an anchor reporter for WCBS in New York City. His reputation as a tenacious interviewer and a tireless investigator. It is my pleasure to introduce Eric Scott. Eric?
It's sometimes hard to believe I did all that stuff at one point. Thank you very much. On behalf of Town Square Media and New Jersey 101.5, Peter, John, Mayor, Freeholder, Madam Clerk, thank you so much for being here and for this invitation. And as we mentioned, I had hoped that we would have gotten together in January. Current events got in the way that day. That was the day that Governor Christie gave his marathon 2.5-hour press conference on Bridgegate. And if you think about where we were, or where he was, and where he is now, coming off a re-election with 61% of the popular vote, he had wins among key Democratic voting blocs, and Christie seemed poised to run away with the GOP nomination for president, and perhaps even the presidency itself. Just days before Bridgegate broke, there was a CNN poll out that had him leading the presumptive Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton. The meteoric rise of Christie, both politically and from a pop culture standpoint, is overshadowed only by how rapidly he has plummeted back to earth. On the last Ask the Governor program just a couple of weeks ago, Christie told me he is still interested in running for president, and that nothing that has happened over the last couple of months would change his decision-making process. And if you think about it, he's got a year to make that decision, which in politics is a lifetime. But if the Bridgegate investigation continues to drag on, it is going to severely hamper his ability to move beyond this cloud of scandal. And nothing short of exoneration by the United States attorney may be enough to save any of his White House ambitions. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about any specifics or answer any questions you may have, but keep in mind that there is a lot here that we don't know. And there is a lot that we may never know. This is all, for right now, pure speculation. Aside from the politics, it's always a pleasure to visit Princeton, particularly on a sunny day like today. I've spent a lot of great days walking the woods and picnicking in the grounds of the battlefield. I've had some great meals at the Peacock, old and new, drinks at Witherspoon, and just walking the campus of Princeton University. The rich history of this town has always been a topic of fascination, and well beyond any of the myths and stories of Albert Einstein. Since 1959, your Chamber of Commerce has been the champion of local business in Princeton. But a look back through history finds Princeton was one of the first centers of commerce for this state. Richard Smith is out with a new book called Legendary Locals of Princeton. And it's a look back at some of the names and the businesses that shaped this town. From the time the first Dutch settlers arrived in the 17th and the early 18th centuries, business has been critical to the success, to the longevity, to the history of Princeton. and perhaps nowhere else in our state is there a greater number of stories, of stores and companies that have achieved a longevity that has begotten renowned or even legendary status. Where else but in Princeton would you find a barber shop whose slogan was, "We make the old young and the ugly beautiful"? There are far too many of these historic businesses to mention, but Smith singles out a few, including the Landau store, which was one of the first retailers to make a concerted effort to market beyond the Princeton border, as far away as New York City. Robert Landau knew the importance of promotion, and he funded a Come Visit Princeton campaign that ran in the New York Times. And his philosophy was a simple one. You can't sell stuff to people unless they want to buy it. You and your organization further that cause today by being the new champions of the business community. But it's getting harder, isn't it? These have been some very trying economic times for Princeton, for our state, for our nation, for all of you. There's something that is called the Wealth Index, and it's given to every state in the nation. And in New Jersey, we score 35 out of 100. And what that means is New Jersey is not a state to live in if you want to create wealth. We actually come in near the bottom of the nation. A score of 50 indicates that you're about average for allowing residents to create wealth, and we are 35. New Jersey is not a healthy state for money making. Does this come as news to any of you?